So I'm only going to show one method to do this. If you need a second method, I can show that to you, but just to keep things simple, I'm just going to show you one method. So on the front of the paper where it says name, you can go ahead and scribble that out. I'm going to skip that method. We're still going to do these 4 problems as extra practice, but I'm going to start on the back. Go ahead and flip it over. We're going to do this method, and then we'll flip over and we'll do those other questions as extra practice, okay? So when you have a more advanced trinomial, when I say more advanced, what I mean is, do you see how there's a number or a coefficient, I should say, in front of the x? It's not just x squared, there's a number there. Do you all see that?
Yeah.
It makes it a little bit more complicated when there's an extra number there that you can't take. Why can't I take 6 out of all of these?
Because you can't. It's not a 6.
Yes, like 15 divided by 6 won't work. This is just a 1, so you can't get rid of it. So it makes it more complicated when there's an extra number there. Now you're still going to do an X box, but the number that goes on the top is the product. And what does that mean?
Multiply.
You're going to multiply the first and the last number. So you're going to multiply these two together. So 6 times negative 15 will be negative 90. So you just multiply those and then proceed as normal. The number on the bottom is the one in the middle. Now that's a little tricky because nothing's written there. It's actually negative 1. Good. So negative 1 goes on the bottom, and then you proceed like usual. So the only difference is you multiply these together to get the top number, proceed as normal. Can you think of some numbers that multiply together to equal 90?
9 and 10.
It will be 9 times 10. Now something's going to need to be negative. Negative 10. All right, are we good to that step? It's not super different than what you did before. Now, to get your answer, because your answer should be 2 things in parentheses. If you want to set it up blank, like that's what your final answer should look like. You're going to take each of these numbers that you found, so the 9 and the negative 10, and you're going to divide them by whatever that number was out front, which in this case was 6. So I'm going to take the first one, 9 divided by 6. If it reduces, you need to reduce the fraction, which that one will. How can we reduce 9 over 6? Divide by 3. So it would reduce to 3 over 2. If you are uncomfortable with that, look, let me show you how to do it in the calculator. If you type 9 divided by 6 and turn it back into a fraction, do you see how it does it for you? So if you're uncomfortable reducing those, just remember Desmos will do a lot of things for you, okay? Then we're going to do the other one, negative 10, and divide that by 6. How would they'll divide by 2. Good. So it'll be negative 5 over 3. Again, I'll share my screen and show you if you want it, like if that made you uncomfortable. Look, negative 10 divided by 6, turn it back into a fraction. Do you see that? It's like brain optional. Do you get what I'm saying? And type it in the calculator. Now, when you go to write your answer, these 2 fractions I circled, the number on the bottom comes first. That's the one thing that's kind of tricky is you have to start with the denominator. So this first one is going to be 2x plus 3. I took the number on the bottom, 2x plus 3. And then this one, again, start with the denominator. It would be 3x minus 5. And that is your final answer. You're probably like, hey, wait, I didn't quite get it. That's why we're going to do practice. Okay, let's try another one. So look. First thing you have to notice, do you see that there's an x squared, an x, and then just a number? Like, do you see the pattern? It's like the first thing. So you're like, okay, I need an x box. You're going to multiply the first and last number. So 4 times 5, 20 goes on top, 12 goes on the bottom. So you need to come up with some numbers. You guys are doing a great job focusing. Just keep this up. You need numbers that multiply together to equal 20, add up to equal 12. It would be 10 and 2. Cool. With me, gentlemen? Or are you talking about this? That's fine. So you're going to take those 2 numbers and put them over whatever was out front, which in this case is 4. Do you see that? So 10 over 4, you're going to reduce that. And 2 over 4, you're going to reduce that. All right, so when we reduce 10 over 4, what's that going to give us? 5 over 2, good. And 2 over 4 would reduce to 1/2. Now, when you go to write your answer, again, it should be 2 sets of parentheses. If you want to write it blank, you just have to remember to start with the denominator. So this first one would be 2x plus 5. And the second one would be 2x plus 1. Let's try it again. Do you see how there's a pattern, x squared, x number? All right, draw your x box. You have to multiply the first and the last number to get what goes on the top. So 4 times 6 is 24. Good. And then negative 11 goes on the bottom. So you need to come up with some numbers that multiply together to be 24. So 8's one of them, and 3, and good, they're both negative. Nice job. So you're going to take those two numbers and put them over what? 4. Good, the number that's out front. So negative 8 over 4, and then negative 3 over 4. And then you reduce them. So how would negative 8 over 4 reduce? Good, negative 2 over 1. And if you're like, hey, do I have to put the 1 there? You kind of do in this case because you need for there to be a denominator. So just leave the 1 in there. Now, negative 3 over 4, that doesn't reduce. So just keep it. And then draw your 2 sets of parentheses for your answer. The first one's going to be 1x minus 2. And then, oh, good. Say that louder. Perfect. I heard him.
Yes.
No, don't yell. Now, sometimes it's a 2-step problem and you have to take out a greatest common factor first. Hey, Miss Cole, why didn't we take out a greatest common factor in these? Well, look, can you take 4 out of all 3 of these? No, 4 won't go into 5. Can you take 4 out of all of these? No, like the reason we didn't do it is because it won't work. Now look here. There is a number that we can take out of all 3 of these, and 52 is kind of large. So if you're not sure, let's type it into Desmos. Look, use your resources. I think it is 4, but hold on. GCF, what were the numbers? 8, 52, 28. Oh, whoops. Good, 4. But do you see how you can use your calculator?
Yeah.
All right, so put 4, start a parenthesis, and we're going to divide them all by 4. We're doing this because it's not simplified. If you can take something out, you should, and that's good because it'll make the number smaller. Okay? So 8 divided by 4, 2x squared. Stick with me. You have to do a bunch of these to get the hang of it. Minus, all right, 52 divided by 4 would be 13. I just know that because I'm a math teacher. You could type it in the calculator. And then minus 28 divided by 4 is 7. When you do a greatest common factor, I want you to scribble this out so that you look at these numbers. You don't want to look back at those numbers. You want to look at what you have now. So draw your X box. And I'm going to cover up this 4. That's kind of just sitting there at this point. We're going to pretty much ignore that. That's just sort of there. And now we're going to do the problem exactly like we did the first 2. Okay. What's going to go on the top here? Negative 14. Good. Negative 7 times 2. What goes on the bottom? Good. Perfect. You got it. And then do the X box exactly like I've taught you. You need numbers that multiply to be 14. Now I know you're probably thinking 2 and 7, but 2 plus 7 can't be 13. So that's not going to work. It'll be 14 and 1. And I heard somebody say which one gets the negative. The negative goes on the 14. So you're going to take these 2 numbers and put them over what? Yep. Yeah, just 2. So you have negative 14 over 2. and then 1 over 2. Are you still writing this down? I have to be able to do more than 2 problems and have your focus last a little longer than that. Like some topics, I mean, after this, the whole rest of the class is going to be stations work, but you got to get through this with me. All right, this will reduce to negative 7 over 1. Leave the 1 in there. This one won't reduce, so just leave it. And then draw your 2 sets of parentheses. What's going to go in the first one? 1x minus 7. Bless you. Bless you. And then this will be 2x plus 1. There's actually one more thing in your answer. Do you see how I covered it up with my fingers so we would ignore it? The 4 just needs to be there. But do you see how I covered it up while I did the rest of the problem? And then I just brought it back at the end. Just do that so it doesn't bother you. Now we're going to do 4 and then we'll do a couple on the other side, okay? What number will go into all 3 of these? 15, 10, and 5. 5. Draw your parentheses. You're awake and talking to me, so I'm perfectly happy. That bothers you way more than me. All right, divide them all by 5. That's going to leave you with what? 3x squared, good, plus. Now this last part's a little tricky. There's still a number there. 1. 5 divided by 5 is 1. Anything divided by itself is 1. Now watch. I'm going to take my finger and just cover up the 5. We'll put it in the answer at the end, but you're basically going to ignore that and just do the rest of the problem. So what goes on the top for our x box? Good. Negative 3. On the bottom, 2. Dose. Now you need numbers that multiply together to equal 3. You don't have a whole lot of choices. Be 3 and 1, and good. The 1 gets the negative. I usually figure out the numbers first, and then I worry about the negatives. But anyway, you're going to take these and put them over what? 3. Your coefficient out front. So 3 over 3, negative 1 over 3. Now this will reduce. This is kind of strange.
1.
Yeah, and you want to actually write it as 1 over 1. You need for it to be a fraction. I know that's sort of weird, but just trust the process. Does this one reduce? No. So you draw your 2 sets of parentheses. What would we put for the 1 and the 1?
1x.
Yeah, 1x plus 1. And then this one would be 3x minus 1. And then what's underneath my finger? 5. I'm going to flip over and do a couple more. We'll just do like 2 more. Make sure everybody's good. But questions at this point or comments? You're sort of okay. We'll do 1 and 3. We'll just do this column. Why can't I take a 2 out of all of these? Yeah, 5 won't divide by 2 nicely. Okay, so you're kind of just stuck. Draw your X box. Stay awake with me, guys. What number goes on the top? Good. 2 times 3 is 6. Gentlemen, 5 goes on the bottom. Now everything's going to be positive, which is kind of nice. I need numbers that multiply to be 6, but add up to be 5. Be 3 and 2. Now you're going to take those and put them over 2. Whatever's your first number. So you're going to take them and put them over 2. So does 3 over 2 reduce? No, just leave it. 2 over 2 reduces weirdly to 1 over 1. And then basically you just write your answer. Draw your 2 sets of parentheses. Start with the denominator. So what goes in this first one? 2x plus 3, good. And then 1x plus 1. All right, and then we'll do number 3. Now, this one, 16, 10, and 6, you have to be a good noticer. Like here, I couldn't take anything out of all of these. Here, there is a number that will divide by all of them. Good, 2. Put 2. Start a parenthesis, and we're going to divide them all by 2. I believe in my heart you can divide by 2. I just believe in you. What'll that give us? 8x squared minus 5x minus 3. I'm just going to take my finger and cover up the 2. We'll bring it back at the end. So draw a big old X. What's going to go on the top? Good. 8 times negative 3 will give you negative 24. You just multiply them. On the bottom is negative 5. This one's a little tougher. You have to come up with numbers that multiply to be 24. 8 times 3?
Yeah.
And negative 8. Good job. Nice. So you're going to take those numbers and put them over 8. Good. So negative 8 over 8 and 3 over 8. Yeah, negative 1 over 1 is this first one. 3/8 won't reduce, so just leave it. Draw your 2 sets of parentheses, and what goes, I heard somebody say it already, actually. 1x minus 1, 8x plus 3, and put the 2 back out. Oops.